It's another day at SMA with the Chevrolets, folks. We got the 2011 GMC over there. It's 1500. It's got the big 5.3 money lights on. McCoy and I are going to have a look at it and see what we're going to have to do. All right, here we go. Somebody must have cleared the codes because, oh gosh dang it, idiot. There was no codes in anything else. There was just in the ECM there. So let's just see. EVAP codes on Chevy, imagine that. We got your classic 446 vent system performance. Mill requested, so that's turning the light on. Fuel tank pressure sensor circuit low. That's got the light coming on. And your classic 455 large leak, and this one has the mill requested. So all of these will typically be related, particularly this one here, fuel tank sensor circuit low. If it can't see fuel tank pressure, it can't tell if the vent is working. It certainly can't detect a large leak. Let's go right in and just look at some data. We'll go to the engine controller, and then we'll go live data. We'll go evaporative emissions, and we'll look at the fuel tank pressure sensor. Pretty failure prone item on a General Motors. And there we are, 0.08 volts. That's not how they typically break. And then it shows the tank pressure at 11.8 millimeters of mercury, whatever that is. But this is the first thing we need to fix before we can identify leaks or anything. That's not true because we could turn off the canister vent valve, do a smoke test on it and stuff. But let's have a look at that fuel tank pressure sensor circuit first. We see that it's low. So your normal General Motors fuel tank pressure sensors run at 1.5 volts, 1.4 to like 1.6, the atmospheric pressure. I believe the open circuit voltage on this, just unplugging the sensor, it does go to 5 volts. And then when it's shorted, goes to ground. So we could be dealing with a sensor that's internally funky. We could be dealing one that has, a short to ground, wires pinched or something like that. So we put a fuel pump in it, who knows. So let's get it up in the air. I think we should be able to reach this without dropping the tank or pulling the drive shaft, and see if we can't get it unplugged and just see what it does right here on scan data. If we unplug it, it goes to 5 volts. Well, good. Oh, there we go. I'll whack my head. Make sure the frame's not super rotted. Oh, just a little bit. Got any rot holes over here? Oh, sorry. Oh, I get you in the face. That'll teach you. Oh yeah, she's rotted out good. Oh, yeah. It's got your classic rotted frame, so it'll fail inspection, obviously. But for the sake of the video, we'll see what we can do. So our fuel tank pressure sensor lives up here. I'm gonna see if I can reach up there and get it unplugged. We won't spend a lot of time on it because this truck's gonna go to the crusher. But we'll at least finish off the video here so everybody knows what was wrong with it. Let's see if we can reach this little guy. We just kind of do it by feel. So I thought. Feel the fuel pump plug. I think we got her this time, folks. There we go.
Goes to 0.
Oh, it goes to 0? Oh, okay. See, I thought these had an open circuit voltage of 5, but have open circuit voltage of 0. Okay, so our connectors out here. Some of you folks may wonder why we're still going at it, even though the frame's rotted out and I said it won't pass inspection. When I say that, I mean it won't pass inspection in my shop. It'll pass inspection in other shops, we'll say. And is the frame repairable? Probably. I don't do frame repairs here, but he certainly can go somewhere and have them put, some spray foam and some spray paint and stuff on it. But it needs the engine light out no matter, even if you go to a lick 'em stick 'em shop. So let's keep on keeping on. Hopefully that answers the question. Let's get a meter, see if this has 5 volts ground, and see if the signal works. And then make the call on what we're gonna need. McCoy's getting the stuff around, getting us a meter and everything. I'm gonna grab a wiring diagram, even though we can figure it out without it. When somebody's just learning, it's a lot easier when we go like this. So we're gonna find the fuel tank pressure sensor, and it happens to be right here on this diagram. So what we're gonna do is we need to make sure that our ground is good, our power is good, and our signal wire is good. So first thing we're gonna do is we're just gonna use our meter. We're just gonna go to digital meter, volts DC. We like to use this one because the screen's bigger, it's easier to see on the YouTube. We've got a 0 to 20 volt scale, and we're gonna probe across the power and the ground, and we expect to see 5 volts. We're going with the gray. Gray is gonna be the power side, and the tan with black is gonna be the ground. So he's gonna identify the wire colors on it. Hopefully they match.
What was it, gray and what?
Yep, gray and then the tan with black. They should be right next to each other, pin 2 and pin 3. And then we've got some front probes on there. He's very gingerly gonna front probe it. So we expected 5 volts and we have 5 volts. So that tells us our power and our ground back here is good. We're gonna take and check the signal wire now, and that's a little bit more tricky. So right now it looks like we likely have a bad sensor, but we need to know for sure. So what we're gonna do is use your humble test light here, incandescent test light. And because we're going to stick power on the dark green wire, because we need to see on scan data. So if we stick 5 volts on our dark green wire, we should be able to go back into scan data, and this display should display 5 volts theoretically, because this is looking at fuel tank pressure sensor wire. It's the only wire it's looking at. It's not looking at the power or the ground. It's just looking how many volts are on that fuel tank pressure sensor wire. In order to do that, we have to jump power to it. But we have a potential, is that shorted to ground? Now, if we take that 5 volts and we jump the 5 volts directly to it with, just a jump lead, and that sensor wire is shorted, you potentially could let the smoke out of the ECM. They usually have a level of protection that doesn't allow them to do that. Usually you can short a 5 volt reference line without any damage. But to be on the safe side, we're gonna do it through a test light. Worst case scenario, if that 5 volts, or if this signal wire is shorted and we jump 5 volts to it, what's the worst thing that could happen? Do you know, McCoy?
The light lights.
The light lights. That's the worst thing that could happen. And 5 volts, it's not going to light very much. It's not going to light very bright. So McCoy knows and understands that because he's been watching Scanner Danner's basic electrical review on his premium channel. And that's why, Paul Danner is also a big fan of the test light. Worst case scenario, the light lights. So McCoy's going to stick one of those leads in the power, and the other one in the signal wire. Yep, plug your test light right in the end of that one. We'll pop back, and there we are. We're at 5 volts. So what's that tell us? Well, that tells us our circuit is intact. Go ahead and remove your test light, McCoy, and that should drop right back to 0. And it does. So open circuit voltage is 0. We have good power, good ground, and we know that the wire running all the way to the computer is good. And we also know that the computer is good. It can interpret the 5 volt signal. So what's that mean? It means it has a bad fuel tank pressure sensor. Just like the code said, we could have just read the code, shotgun the part. You could have, and in this case, you would have been right. This is how you test most 3-wire sensors that operate like this. Most 3-wire pressure transducers will say, they've got power, ground, signal. You need to make sure that the power and ground is good, and make sure that the signal wire running to the PCM is good. And in this case, they are. So hopefully you guys understood that. I'm going to get a hold of the customer. I'm going to finish looking the truck over. I see it's got tires that wore down with the wear bars and stuff. So he's got some other things, but I'll get his thoughts on, the rusted out frame, and if he wants that fixed for the engine light, and then we'll be right back and I'll let you know what's up. We're in luck, folks. Guy wants to fix it. We got a new one here. Standard Motor Products. Trust standard, it says, when OE fails. Here's our old one. McCoy and I were able to reach up there and get that out with a little teamwork. We're gonna get this one lubed up here on the O-ring, get that slipped in, plugged in, and then we're gonna look at our scan data. We should see, like I say, 1.4 to 1.6 is what I expect. And then we're gonna check to make sure the rest of the EVAP system functions as it should. Our new sensor's in, keys on. We're C 1.3, which is a little bit lower than what I would expect, but it is an aftermarket sensor. We are at 0.8 millimeters of mercury, which translates to 0.4 inches of water, which translates to 0.014 psi. So almost atmospheric pressure. What we want to do now is we're going to go into our active test. We're going to go to vent solenoid, and we want to make sure the vent solenoid works. Okay, we heard it click. It's warm in the shop, so this should start building pressure relatively quickly, I would assume. Yep, so we can see here, we're building pressure. Fuel's volatile, we have the system completely blocked off. Purge valve is closed, canister vent valve is closed, and we should start building pressure. And we can see our pressure starting to go up. And then if we put it back to atmospheric, or open the valve, it should go back to atmospheric pressure. And it did, it went back to, 1.31. These are pretty fault tolerant, the EVAP systems. I don't think we're gonna throw a code being at 1.3. Like I say, usually they're 1.4 to 1.6, somewhere in there. Ideally, it would be 1.5. And I've seen aftermarket sensors, skewed like this. Nothing to do with the wiring. We could get another sensor, put another sensor in, and we're gonna have, a different reading. But we can see that the system is sealed, does seal, and can build pressure. Open the system back up. Now we're gonna check, we're gonna let the car down, we're gonna throw a hose on it, start it up, make sure that the purge valve works. We're gonna do a purge and seal. I don't know if that's in here. Oh, yep, it is. So there's a purge and seal where we're gonna put a vacuum on the tank and then see if it can hold vacuum. Of course, it'll decay a little bit over time. So we're gonna set it down and do that test next. Contact. All right, we got it running. Hit okay. So right now it's venting. So we're gonna turn on the purge valve. So we got it at 2%, it says it's not venting right now. We need to get the tank pressure. Okay, we're gonna let it build a little bit of negative pressure here. Only got it running at 10%. If we crank it up too fast, it'll suck the sides in on the tank. We'll let it get up to about 2.5 volts-ish. All right, and then we're gonna seal the system off. Purge valve is at 0. We are not venting, so purge valve is closed, vent valve is closed, and you can see we're holding vacuum. Now there's gonna be a certain rate of decay because the fuel's volatile and it's building pressure, just like we've shown before, but if we had a gross leak, this would drop down rapidly. We'd go from 2.5, as soon as we sealed the system, it would drop right back to the 1.3. But we can see that we're holding vacuum in the tank. So the large leak code is irrelevant, I guess is what I was trying to prove with this test here. Actually holds vacuum quite well. All right, so that's that, folks. We're done here. One thing we do want to do, we're gonna pop back into generic OBD2 data. We're gonna see if the drive cycle is finished. We should have checked this prior to doing anything. That way we don't get any surprises. Okay, so the drive cycle is finished, and the only codes it had are the codes that we saw there in the beginning. The canister vent valve, performance, vent control circuit, they call it on this side, but it's not a circuit code, it was a performance code, large leak, and then the pressure sensor A. So pending, permanent, and current. So this, what we just fixed, should clear up all of this codes there. You can go ahead and shut it off, McCoy. That's it, folks, fixing the EVAP on your GMC or Chevrolet. It's very similar on the trucks as it is on the cars, and it is on most of the General Motors systems. They run a classic vent purge type system, for lack of a better term. Purge valve, vent valve, pressure sensor, all three big components on this system. And usually you can diagnose most of the EVAP system right from the scan tool, if you understand steering operation. The GoTech Garage, NGK, Wells EV, whatever you want to call it, over there on their YouTube channel, Mike Becker does a great job and has a good video series on EVAP systems. I think he breaks them down per brand. General Motors, Chrysler's, the Toyota stuff, intrusive, non-intrusive, all the different types of EVAP systems. So you can go check them out. Hopefully my video was helpful, trying to help McCoy along in his journey, discovering if he wants to work on cars or not, I suppose. So I get a little fumbly because I have to remind myself of how things work and why we're doing what we're doing. So it's a good reminder. Anyhow, questions, comments, concerns, Facebook, you guys know where to find us. And just remember, viewers, if I can do it, you can do it. Thanks for watching.